What we've talked about so far is just the reckless speed of development, partially because it makes it so easy for an individual or a small team to build an application, which you would think would result in more geographical dispersal of talent, of companies, of all of this. And yet we've seen hubs pop up across the globe, San Francisco for one, Tel Aviv, otherwise, where AI development seems to be clustering and headquartering. Why is that? And what are the headwinds to building a successful company outside of those hubs?
Actually, lately, Stanford University published the AI Index report, and they mentioned that Israel is a top spot for Gen AI talent. Mm-hmm. So you combine this kind of talent with our vast experience in machine learning and data science, together with our unique culture of innovation and entrepreneurship. It's kind of creating a very fertile ground to create Gen AI companies. And I think my thought about it is that Israel will become like category leader in vertical Gen AI as we became leader in cybersecurity. There are many elements that are very similar between these categories, and I really hope that eventually we will become the category leader there.
From our region, Singapore is famously expensive in many ways. But now a lot of the tech companies are willing to set up the core team here. That AI will empower the core teams, increasing productivity, kind of lower down their average costs. That maybe will kind of be more beneficial to Singapore from this AI-empowered talent perspective. But I want to mention like one specific thing about Vietnam. Vietnam actually is famous for tech talent. There has been a tech talent hub over the last 10 years with a lot of like regional startups or MNCs setting up R&D centers in Vietnam. But what's a challenge for Vietnam is not tech. Actually, it's probably product design, the global business development relationship. So this way, we already see that a few major international companies are setting up their AI R&D center in Vietnam, or either organically or through M&A. And we can see that the AI talent will gather there and become some kind of important hub, one of the hub outside from all the major cities. And in the next few years, if the country will be able to build up like a great product talent, marketing talent, and other business talent, then I feel that Vietnam do have a potential to own a space in the global AI startup landscape.
I think talent is a key element in AI development. And in China, I think the AI tech hub is still in Beijing. Nowadays there are 6 large language model startups called 6 Tigers in China, like Moonshot, Zhipu, 01, etc. 6 of them, 6 Tigers. And these 4 teams are actually from one university, Tsinghua University. Yeah, so it's a very, very typical startup team. In the past 2 years, back in 2 years, I think there's a shortage of talent in terms of new AI technology. But nowadays, we can see many fresh PhDs, even dropouts, professors coming out from academic and start up a new company. Those, especially those language model companies. But in terms of the application level startups, we see a lot of diverse background founding teams. Many of them were actually in the internet industry. Now they're kind of leveraging the existing large language models. Some of them are open source. So based on that, they can develop consumer products. So we see a lot of application level founding teams across China, not only in Beijing, Shanghai, and Shenzhen, Hangzhou, etc.
It's actually just picking up on that. I mean, in the US, it's pretty similar in that application teams are generally popping up everywhere. We just made an investment in a company called SPRX Tax that automates filing tax credits using Gen AI, and they started in the Midwest and now actually opening their sales and marketing center in San Francisco because San Francisco remains an epicenter of business development, just as New York is also important and that type of thing. But I actually think back to the sort of the earlier question of like, can you build an AI company outside of a hub? It's an interesting one because so much of the talent is based in research, whether that's in a university setting, in China or in the US or maybe even in Israel, but also in an industrial setting, right? So, Meta is spending tens of billions of dollars on AI broadly in data centers and chips and software and all things. Microsoft is doing the same, Amazon, Google, et cetera. And so I think just, the logical migratory pattern would be well, if the people are in Seattle or San Francisco or New York at each of those respective companies, and they want to start a company, they're likely going to leave and go across the street and set up shop so they can recruit their friends. And so I think that in that way, it's largely self-reinforcing from an infrastructure creation standpoint, but there's more opportunities, I think, in the application stack where that inspiration can come from anywhere. And it's about marrying, I think, in our view, it's about marrying experience with productivity. And that is much easier to happen anywhere.
So just to put a really fine point on it, it sounds like the consensus is almost that an idea can come from anywhere, the spark of a company can come from anywhere, but building it still gravitates towards those traditional tech hubs in a lot of ways.
Maybe we can challenge that, maybe because of Gen AI and how it makes the models more accessible and software more accessible. Maybe it can go out of these hubs.
Yes.
Maybe this is the question. This is the right answer for that. We will see. Maybe the info and the models will be created in the hubs, but the vertical Gen AI companies might be easier to create, or now easier than before to create outside of these hubs. Maybe they will create some kind of imagination and the ability that you can create something new because of this new software. I don't know.
Maybe it's the one-person company, right? It's what can one person do, and that person can be anywhere. It can scale infinitely. Otherwise, I would challenge that assumption, only because people work better together in person. We're all sitting here together having a conversation. We're not facing a computer staring at Zoom, and we could see each other, feel each other, hear each other. And when you multiply that in teams, I think, now that people have had plenty of experience working remote and then working back together again, we saw this, burst of...
This is regardless to Gen AI.
Exactly.
Any kind of company.
Right.
This is like a global assumption of how to create a company.
Sure.
But we can assume that Gen AI can be some kind of trigger to create a good company outside of this hub, because it's like an enabler.
Sure.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah.